Welcome to the first ever Pocket Size PR podcast, the podcast where pocket-sized portions of PR wisdom are distilled and applied to real-life situations by communications professionals. Our first guest on the show is Ashleigh King, podcast producer, host, trainer, and owner of Flamingo Heights. Ashleigh, how do you define PR?
For me, it's everything. It's everything we do can be PR. I think it's a incredible tool that can bring so much energy in your business. So PR for me is actually more of a personal brand, I suppose, because I am my own organization. It's what people say when you're not in the room.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that feeling that they get when they hear your name, when they see your profile, when they see the work you do, the way that your team or your colleagues talk about you. It's so multifaceted with PR that, yeah, I find PR really hard to put in like words very quickly.
Totally.
But to me, it's just such an exciting opportunity, and it's something that even if you don't think you're doing, you are doing.
Totally agree with all of that. I mean, it is so hard to describe, even as a PR professional, because sometimes it's, psychological, mysterious kind of effects at play, almost like changing perceptions, changing your mind, essentially, and reputation, what you believe in. Now, you run a podcast studio, a fabulous one, Flamingo Heights in Newcastle. Should podcasting be part of a PR strategy?
I believe so, yeah. For me, it's up to individuals or organizations. I think the opportunities that a podcast brings are just incredible, especially at the moment. I feel there's a real thirst and hunger for content. We're getting a lot of short form content, and that's great, and podcasts can actually create that for you.
Yes.
But I also feel that there's a lot of people who are just really looking for lengthy things they can listen to or interact with. I think we're hungry for knowledge and information. So to me, a podcast is a great vehicle to do that. I think should it be part of your strategy? Yes. And I think it can also save you so much time in repurposing content for other reasons.
Oh, absolutely. There's just so many benefits, aren't there? What are the benefits to your brand of podcasting?
So many. So I think if you are a social cause, or if you are a community interest company or social enterprise, things like that, can help raise your awareness of what you're doing and get people excited about your campaign. It can attract donors or funding or all sorts of opportunities. If you are more commercially based, so you wanting to get new sales and win clients, the benefit of a podcast is you pre-sell. So you repel your nightmare clients, but you attract your dream ones. And so for me, a podcast in terms of a strategy, as a PR strategy, it's a magnetic force that you can use to repel those clients or attract the magnetic ones that you love working with. But you pre-sell yourself. So you pre-sell yourself, whether it's your own podcast and you maybe not doing it for any kind of business or commercial reasons, but you just want to talk about something that's important to you, like a love of ice hockey or something like that, or crystals. You get to talk about something, and you build such a unique, intimate connection with an audience through your stories and your content as it releases.
Absolutely. And it's all about relationships at the end of the day.
It is, yeah. So for me, I'll always say this in training and things, because people will ask me about all kinds of myths of podcasting, and they'll say, when it comes to a podcast, do you make money? Have you ever made money? And with my own podcast, I don't make a lot of money in terms of ad revenue or anything like that. No. I think I've had £62 or something. Yeah, but the opportunities that have come through being a podcaster or having a podcast, I get invited to speak on stages, paid speaking opportunities, paid presenting. I never ever have to look for leads. I have always got a strong, healthy lead pipeline because of the work I've done to nurture that. So I feel really, really confidently that podcasting can create so many opportunities for people. I don't think everyone should podcast.
That was going to be a question. Should people I guess, should they podcast altogether? Should they host their own, or should they just focus on guesting?
So this is an interesting one. I have a lot of people who are really nervous about the time and energy into running their own show, but I work with them to develop their own value proposition as a guest.
Right.
And so we work out, what do they want to talk about? What are the topics they can add value to? How can they get people excited or get on other shows? And I think that is the thing. Guesting on other people's shows is a great way to grow your profile, but it's also saves you all the risk of having to run a show and create the name and think about the strategy and all those things. So it's a really worthwhile thing to do. I think it really depends on the person's goals and how fast they want to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is very time intensive, isn't it? Hosting your own show. Absolutely worth it. In, unfortunately, not direct monetary repayment, not yet anyway.
Yeah.
And there's always that opportunity down the line. And there's also the commitment. I feel like you don't often get a lot from even our first year. The viewings we've had triple the viewings this year compared to last year, and hopefully that will grow and grow. So often you don't get a lot for it when you first start doing it, which can be painful.
But you will have had opportunities from that,
yes.
paid work from that, new partnerships.
Yeah.
But when you walk into a room, people will go, oh, that's Charlotte. I know her face.
Yeah.
And one of the things with me, with this beautiful pink hat that I like to wear, is that I go to networking events now and people already know who I am, even though I don't. So if they want to talk to me, they'll seek me out. And I find that so helpful. So having a podcast actually can pre-sell your services and keep you front of mind for things.
I love that. And mentioning the hat, you almost have a PR prop with you. Can we talk about that? How did it come about?
Yeah, so I have a great friend called George, who you may have seen at networking events. He always wears a hat. So he's a black gentleman. He's from the Gambia originally.
Okay.
And I can't remember how we got onto it, but I'm from South Africa. He's from the Gambia. And we'd said something like, I should get a hat. And it was my birthday one day, and I found this hat in a store in York, and I was there for the day, and I just loved it, and I thought it was amazing. So I wore it to a networking event. Anyway, within wearing it a few times, I also was doing my own podcast, but I'd recently become video podcaster, and I'd started to wear the hat, and I just couldn't believe the traction from this hat. So I can't wear it for everyday life because I don't want to talk to anyone. Yes. Like in Tesco or something. Oh, are you that lady from LinkedIn? Yes. But yeah, it's just a really powerful hat. I'm so proud. I'm so happy for it. I think for me, I love style. I love fashion. I love art and creativity. And it's a piece of uniform that I can put on to step into me as a business leader.
Helps you stand out. It also ties into your story, who you are, what your values are. I love it.
But it's quite clever, right? I've never done this on purpose, but I go to a networking event, but because I'm wearing the hat, then the photographer there will always take a photo of me. Yes. So then you go on the professional photos from whatever event you go to, and you're in every photo. So if you go to the Women in Tech website,
I've seen you in loads of photos. Yes.
And it's not an intentional thing. It's just that because you had your hat on, I guess for the photographer, when they look at the color composition,
absolutely,
it stands out, it pops. And also because I tend to wear quite bright colors. So it's a tool that I feel like it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you started off the conversation, I always believe everything is PR.
Yes.
It helps you stand out. It's your unique style. So yeah, maybe your final PR tip will be buy a hat.
Yeah.
Can't have everyone though.
Yeah. I think it doesn't have to be a hat, but it could be a pair of earrings or a particular color. I think color is really important because color makes us feel things.
Yes.
And so if you find something that makes you feel your richest self in terms of it's like your juiciest version of you, and then take that with you wherever you go.
I totally agree. And, said someone sat here in monotone, but, that's how I feel at the moment. So it's a good way of expressing how you feel. But definitely I quite often will wear bright clothes at events to stand out.
Yeah.
But again, I'll wear what feels right in the moment.
But you also have your iconic blonde hair.
Yes.
So, because I
know it's chopped.
I know, no, it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
And it's nice sometimes to have a new lease on life with, a new hairstyle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I do think that you've had that, and you're so youthful, Charlotte.
Oh, bless you. I love you, Ashleigh.
I think I saw something the other day. It was 2005 or something. It was something you posted or somebody posted. It was Joanna Feely, yourself.
Oh, yes, the Entrepreneurs Forum.
Yeah.
Thing.
And I couldn't believe all these amazing people I look up to, like from that time, are nominated for awards, whatever, and still part of that community. I guess as a business owner, I only started in 2019. So to see all these amazing people, including yourself, but what I noticed was your youth, but your long blonde hair, and you still look exactly the same, although you might not feel that.
I certainly don't, but that's very kind of you. And if you look closely, you'll see I don't look the same, but thank you. I'm taking it all the same. Okay, so this is going to be a question I ask all the guests because it's something people struggle with. But what would you say is the difference between PR and marketing?
For me, this is something I think is really important. So when people come to me and say, I want to start a podcast, they often are put off by the cost. And it's a marketing spend. We have marketing budgets. So it's a tool to get you return on investment, to get you conversion of sales opportunities, or to get you eyeballs, to get you to get people looking at your brand, your product, your service. So I always find it really strange, this. To me, you can have an entire marketing strategy, but in your marketing strategy, you're going to do some social media. You're going to do you might do some videos. You might do your PR stuff, like do some news things. With a podcast, instead of being a form of the marketing strategy, I believe it is the strategy. So what I mean by that is, if instead of your podcast being on the corner of a marketing strategy, I think it sits in the middle, and then from that comes your social clips, your press releases. Because yes, you could do PR about the podcast, but actually it can help if you reach out to the press with a really interesting story, because you've created an innovation in healthcare, something, but you've got a podcast episode and you've got a really juicy clip that you can use. It's to me, it's really integral, actually, the podcast part to that marketing strategy. So I find it tricky, the difference between marketing and PR, and I'm sure as a PR professional you can say it better.
I don't know. I think everyone finds it tricky, and I think the lines are so blurred these days. And what I tend to say at the minute, which does change all the time, is try and forget about what's PR, what's marketing. Think about your brand and what's best to build credibility and trust for it.
Absolutely. And as we were saying, you're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So with PR, you're always doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It's your business cards. It's your email signature. It's the way you introduce yourself when you get 60 seconds at a networking breakfast. It's the way you shake someone's hand or the smile you give.
It's your aura.
It is.
It emits out of you almost.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so much that, and totally agree about our strategy for 2025. Podcasts at the heart of it. This podcast, in fact.
Yes. Yeah.
And whether it's PR or marketing that emanates from it, it's so valuable. The content, the guesting, the follow-ups, everything is. I see podcasting as a critical component of PR and marketing.
100% agree. I think something you've touched on there is really important. So having a podcast is one thing. There are many different ways you can do one. You can do something that's just piece to camera, just your own voice. A lot of people do an interview guest style, and I think that's great, but I think it's really important to have a topic or a theme in mind. So the Pocket Size PR podcast is a great name, but it also is focusing on PR. So it showcases your skills and leadership in this area, but also gives opportunity to guests to contribute towards that. I think sometimes there's a lot of people that come to me and say, I want to be the next Stephen Bartlett. So can you help me do a podcast? But when we dive into it, obviously there's this phenomenal budget for what that kind of output. On a different note, I think it's important to see, you can't just do a podcast just for the sake of doing one because everyone else is doing one. That's not a reason to do one. It's having content pillars. It's having a strategy. How will this help you in your business? Because actually, otherwise, it's just another thing that you're going to start to do. You won't have the time and you won't prioritize it, and it's not going to get you the results you want.
Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. It has to be a point to it. It has to align to your business objectives.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had a PR disaster?
Have I had a PR disaster? I did get that question from you ahead of time, and I've been trying to think about one. And I can't say I have had one.
If you haven't.
No, but...
Have you ever seen one?
Yes, that's a great answer. Question. The Fire Festival.
Oh, yes.
So as someone who used to work in events and events management, that is my greatest fear.
Oh, yes.
It is something like the Fire Festival happening. The amount of mishandling of that project for it to get that bad, I don't understand what they've done there. I can also see that it was very much led around money. So, I mean, there were all these influencer packages sold, but it was, I guess just the reality and expectation just wasn't there at all. It's one of I actually did some teaching on that before, where I've said, like, here's a great case study for how to look at customer stakeholder engagement, like all the different ways that we interact with marketing or management. I mean, that was an absolute disaster for me.
It was. But then they managed to create some almost drama and entertainment out of it in the end.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, thankfully the people who were were really hurt by it, But I mean, they're real communities and people on the ground in the islands that really were messed around with that.
Yeah. Okay, final question. What is your one PR tip that you want to tell anyone?
I suppose it would be wear a hat. No, I'm going to say be yourself. And when I say be yourself, it's something I've been reflecting on a lot. So I thought I'd bring it to talk about today. So we talk a lot about authenticity, and that's important, but actually we're all evolving individuals. So what might be authentic to you today might not be the authentic you in 10 years' time. I also feel that when you become a podcaster, or if you are someone guesting a lot and you've got a public presence, it's okay to have privacy. It's okay to go, I'll talk about this, but maybe not that. Or to not share everything about your kids' names or where they go to school, or, it's important to have privacy. So being yourself is important, but also you don't have to share all your flaws. Or I think it's important to be yourself and be authentic. And the beauty of a podcast and why people listen is they are listening to you when they're washing the dishes, or they are walking the dog, or they are in the gym. So it's a very intimate experience because you're in their ears. And I think that means you're invading their space. So when you look at marketing and ad stats, people prefer being marketed to or advertised to via podcasts more than they do TV. So when I've looked into this and done research and looked at stats, I've always found that fascinating. And that's why I think it's such an exciting medium that you can use as a PR strategy, because you're connecting with people where they're at home. And I think if you are a content creator, being authentic is really important, because those people are giving you their ears, but you can then share with them and almost have this two-way experience. And you can have Q&As, you can do things to talk to them. People can send voice notes or questions in or that kind of stuff. But it's such a great way to build a community and build an audience, build a movement, even if you wanted to. But I do think as well that you don't have to share everything about yourself. Yeah.
I totally agree. You've been amazing. Thank you, Ashleigh King.
Thank you. Thanks.
Nobody can do business with you if they don't know about your business. But nobody will do business with you if your business's brand doesn't have trust and credibility. PR is the secret sauce in the marketing mix that can help achieve this and so much more. If you're interested in how PR can help your business, contact Harvey and Hugo, harveyandhugo.com, or email info@harveyandhugo.com.